All right, Cam. First of all, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
It's been a while since I've seen you, right?
It's been a good 6 months or more, probably. Yeah.
Probably, right?
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
while.
I remember when I called you a couple weeks ago. I was, I was telling you, I was like, Cam, I think last time I saw you was in a macroeconomics class, and
Probably.
and I remember you were just not paying attention at all, like zero, zero. You just turned off. Your mind was somewhere else. And I remember at the time I asked you, "What's up? What are you looking at? What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And then you just look at me and you're like, "I'm starting my own business." I'm like, "Huh?" So can you kind of give me the answer you gave me at the time?
So that class, I actually I that's when I first started sketching really a lot for the brand because that's when the idea was really strong in my head. Because it was that second semester where the idea sort of came about to really begin my brand and start my clothing brand, which I had been wanting to do for a long time. I had a little clothing venture in high school that I did, failed miserably, and I kind of sat back and was like, maybe clothing's not the best thing for right now. So I just sat off on it until freshman year of school, where I don't know, it school had always been the major moving force for me. Like with everything I did, school was always number one, whether it was my parents, my friends, like I always was focused on school. But then I came here and it kind of all changed a lot. I had sort of gassed myself in high school with like the program I was doing and different things there, and sort of had a lot of different revelations about what I thought school could do for me. So it was, yeah, second semester is when the idea really came about one day. And that class was extremely boring for me. So I used that as this time to sketch. And I didn't really pay attention in the class. It backfired because I had to study a lot more on my own time. But in that class, it put me in the right zone to sketch and work on my stuff. So I just kept my head down and sort of drowned them out.
Good. Okay, so all right, now that we got that
He was a
out of
good
the way,
professor, by the way.
he's probably gonna listen to this at some point. Uh, okay, now that we got that out of the way, can you actually say your name? What's your business? What do you do? And what's the purpose of your
Yeah,
business?
let's get back to that. So I'm Cameron Bangert. I'm owner of Heirs FTY clothing. FTY is for the youth. And my clothing brand is based on the idea of providing more resources to the youth and supplying them with things that they could use at a younger age instead of delaying it later in life. So we're going to be funding that, excuse me, through the clothing. So our brand is really about pushing youth culture and youth ideas through also supporting them and having a purpose with the brand.
Okay, so and I remember seeing this. You'll be able to find this online, but half of the profits go to a foundation.
Yeah. So right now it's ideally is that's what I'm trying to do is take or half of the profits from everything we make to start these foundations. So right now I'm sort of just collecting that money and putting it aside. Some of it's had been recycled back into the brand for more promotion, putting out certain products when money's short with orders, because we also do promotional giveaways. So depending on the promoter or ambassador, or if it's a celebrity, somebody, wherever we try and promote, we were really about giving away the products too, because it's not just about the money with it, it's about the foundation. So there's definitely been cuts into it, but once it starts moving at a larger scale and there's more, I guess, organization behind it, there's real books, real accounting behind it, and we can really get down to the logistics of the numbers. Yeah, we're hoping to put 50% of every cent that we make into these foundations to keep them going for the youth.
So I'm not gonna lie. There are three main reasons why I decided to buy some of your stuff. One of them,
Thank you,
it's
by
you.
the way.
Thank you.
Big time.
Honestly, he saw how excited I was when I got one of the shirts.
Did you get the new ones yet?
Yes, I did.
The quality compared to, because you have one of the red
Yeah,
ones,
the one you're
right?
wearing right now, so awesome.
And
Yeah,
one of the red
one,
ones, right?
Yeah,
Like, it's such a
it
difference.
changed a lot.
Yeah.
So first thing is, it's you. I think when one of our friends starts something, we really should help him. That's
People should.
right. Like it's
And that's part of the reason, I mean, sorry to interrupt again, but I like working with you. And I mean, when we spoke, even though it had been 6 months, a year, whatever it had been, it doesn't feel that different, because when we first met, like, I could tell that you were a supportive person, a supportive friend. And that's what I think most people should do.
thank you. And I'm not gonna lie. For was what I want to say about a year or so. I wanted to buy your stuff, and I'm like, dude, I need to be part of this. I need to help him out. This is good stuff. Like,
You had
there's
been.
no, and I remember having $2 in my account, and I'm like, this has to happen at some point. And then you release this last one,
Yeah.
the one with the shirt you're wearing, right? And I'm like, done. Okay, it has to be now. Period. This is happening. And then I called you, and then I got the shirt. Amazing. So that's thing number one. Thing number two, and this is more of I think a style thing.
Okay.
I really like the clean designs
Mm-hmm.
that you've been creating recently, and it's you may call it differently, but I want to say it's almost like a minimalist style.
To an extent, I definitely think that I like to keep it simplistic just because I've never had a style that's necessarily over the top. And I don't do a lot of custom things in terms of patching and sewing and just different things of that sort. So when it comes to just printing and t-shirts and hoodies, I've always liked simpler stuff. But when it comes to minimalist, I mean, it also, a lot of it's due to our budget right now. So how much we can afford to do cut and sew wise sort of affects it. So we want more to come in terms of just like color blocked hoodies and full over print button ups and different things that I'm working on there. But that's all budget stuff. But it definitely is more minimalist in the sense that it's not going to be over the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's ultimately about the purpose, not necessarily the clothes. And that's why, I mean, for example, part of the reason you say you like the brand so much is what's behind it too.
Yeah.
We had a discussion, and that is mainly what you had spoke about. And that's what I love. Like, that's why I'm doing the brand, is because when people know what's behind the brand, when they really understand what's behind it, that's when they start loving it. And I've noticed it with people, because some people won't be fully behind it. They'll be like, oh yeah, your clothes are all right, they're cool. And then another time we end up hanging out, we get back into the same discussion, and we go to the whole school side of it.
Yeah.
We go to the whole the nonprofit foundation side of it, and we get into that discussion, and then they're like, whoa, this is way bigger than just clothing.
Yeah, this is what makes it different. And that was my third point, actually.
Yeah.
It's the foundation thing. No, good. You're doing good. No, it's actually the foundation, because it's part of what I'm going to be doing with this company is trying to tell people, like, thing number one, school, just like your revelation, school does not teach you what you think it does.
Yeah. I'll agree with that 100%.
Yeah?
Because I think a lot of people like to jump on the quick ideas of school isn't useful. And that I hate hearing, because school is very useful.
Mm-hmm.
It teaches students how to critically think. However, I think at a certain point, there is only so much school can do to help you learn how to think critically. And then beyond that point, once you've learned how to really grasp critical thinking, the knowledge that you choose to absorb and then take in is being pushed. It's being put on to students. And I think that's where the school's usefulness can outlive itself, is once that student has really grasped how to think critically, then the information that they need varies big time, instead of just teaching them how to think critically through different information over X amount of years. But
yeah. And it's funny. Well, we're supposed to be kind of in the same grade, but I got tired of school, so I decided to graduate a little bit earlier, like 6 months earlier.
are you taking more courses?
Yeah, I took about 14 credits over last summer.
Over the summer?
Yes,
Okay.
14 credits over the last summer. I took a organizational management class, an accounting 1 class, and an Italian 1 and 2 classes.
Awesome.
Survived. Don't know how. It worked.
How's the Italian?
It's good. Actually, I got my citizenship recently.
Okay.
Yeah, so my
Useful.
great-grandfather was Italian, so that's kind of how I came to be an actual citizen now. And I figured, if I'm going to be a citizen, if I'm turning into a citizen, I better know the language.
Yeah,
I feel like
or at least a little.
that's a fair point, right?
Yeah.
I can't just... But what I was going to say is, when you mentioned the school teaches you how to think critically, right? And it teaches you up until a certain point. And I think that's fair. So what I was going to say is, I am on my third year to the fourth year of school right now. and it feels like I'm done. It feels like what I had to learn is mostly already being learned,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now I find myself going online to try to learn stuff, looking up online courses, looking up online videos, trying to talk to more people, seek mentorship, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That happens
Really
a lot.
learn.
Yeah, really
Yeah.
learn, like actually apply it.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that came with that was, well, now I actually have to open my business. I have to actually start it. And what I mean by that is registering it with the IRS, with the state of Florida, doing all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go through that process already?
No.
No.
So I think that's actually a funny aspect to think about. I mean, props to you also for registering and doing all those things
Trying.
already. I think there's also logistics to when you have to do that,
Mm-hmm.
because until you're making a certain income in the state of Florida, you don't necessarily need to pay taxes for your personal expenses. And since my business is operating as a sole proprietorship right now,
Okay.
I don't operate as a separate entity. So whatever happens with my business happens with me.
Got
So until my business, which is consequently me at the same time, starts making enough to the point where I can be taxed, I don't really need to worry about
Do
that
you
side
happen
as
to
much.
know what that cap is?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where can we find it?
The internet, like
look it
most of these things, if you just find what income is taxable in the state of Florida for an adult, I mean,
But you go for, so it's essentially like an individual income not related at all to businesses, and then once you get to a certain level, then you start being taxed?
well,
Or no?
the reason I haven't registered for an LLC, so limited liability,
Yeah.
the reason I don't want to do that yet is because once I do that, my business becomes a separate entity
Yeah.
from me.
Mhm.
Once it does that, any revenue it makes has to have taxes paid on it. While it's still operating as a
See.
sole proprietorship under me, I can wait a little bit. So it's just that cushion room while it's my job, it's what I want
Yeah.
to do with my life, but I still have to get my degree. I
Yeah.
still have to work my part-time
Yeah.
job.
You're actually using the fact that you're a college student on your favor.
And I also want to enjoy being young. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
very much excited to be an adult. And as much as people are like, oh, stay young, you don't want to pay bills, you don't want responsibilities. I'm like, no, I do want that stuff, but I'm going to listen to you a little bit and
Yeah.
enjoy some of my youth. So I don't know. There's things that I'm willing to hold off on to
Okay.
that make the business more legitimate and more concrete until I'm ready for that. So it's a preparedness sort of thing. A lot of people, I think the reason they're scared to start with certain things like this is they immediately feel obligated to do all of this legal stuff on the side. Which, yeah, you're gonna have to do
At
if
some
you want to
point
do
you
this
do.
sort of thing, but it's a matter of when. What are you doing? Are you jumping into a business with capital because somebody in your family or a prior investment you had
Mhm.
made a lot of money, and now you're jumping into it with 40 grand or 30 grand, like, because that changes it. Then you automatically have to be paying on that because it's
Yeah.
whether it's a separate entity or not, you're making
You're already
more
making a
than
lot of money,
taxable.
yeah.
Yeah. So there's different layers to it. I think it's a matter of how big you are from the start, just based on your capital. If you're starting a nonprofit versus an actual company and a brand,
Mhm.
there's legal logistics to that. So I definitely didn't worry about that as much. The main thing I focused on was getting my trademark.
Okay.
Because once I had that, I could be official. My stuff would be protected to some degree, and I would be in more databases just to be found as a company, so I could start getting more networking through that. Because once you're entered and established as a business with your trademark,
Yeah.
like email lists and everything, they give all that information out and people start reaching out. So it was a good little way to find different little contacts.
Interesting. Okay, so
But-
let's go back on this trademark.
Yeah.
Pretend I have zero clue what a trademark is,
Mhm.
how to get it, what to do, what that brings me. Can you kind of explain that?
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea.
Okay.
2 years ago, I had literally not a clue, because the only thing I saw on shirts was, or any product for that matter, was either the TM or the R. And I was like, what is
Okay.
the R? What is the TM?
All right.
What's the difference? One's a trademark. One's a registered trademark. Right now, mine is TM, not R, because it's not fully registered yet. I'm still working on little.
So is the TM a half step to an art?
Essentially, it's that you have the trademark, you've applied for it, you're going through the process. It's not in conflict with anybody else, but then the R is registered trademark. People use them falsely all the time, but if you're on a small scale, it's not something you really get in trouble for, especially if there's no lawsuit involved.
Interesting.
Those things only come up when it's specific. So when big companies want to sue a company for making fake stuff of theirs in India or China, that's when they can do it and get those little nitpick things. But the trademark itself for me was, can we gear back to the question one more time?
So how do you, what is a trademark? First of all, is it kind of the logo?
And how I got the information about it and everything. Okay, yeah. Had no idea about trademarks, anything. So I was just researching them, just in my room, in my dorm room, just finding out more about it, the process behind it. Then I looked at the actual documents for filing and saw how intense they were and full of legal jargon and all these things. Yeah, and then you find out that there's other third-party resources you can go to where you just pay a little on-top fee and they do the filing for you, like LegalZoom, things like that. It's really just a lot of Googling,
Did you end
a
up,
lot of time on the internet.
A third party or no?
Yeah, LegalZoom. That's actually who I ended up going through. They can pretty much help you with any legal document, whether that be trademarks, patents, literally everything, taxes. Like LegalZoom is a good place for pretty much any legal financial document or anything you need to handle.
And are they kind of accessible?
This is unpaid. LegalZoom did not reach out to me, by the way. Be cool. Sponsor me.
They don't know we exist, but if you want to sponsor us, it'd be nice, not gonna lie. Okay. All right. So, essentially, the trademark is it's kind of your logo, first of all, and your name.
Yeah.
Correct?
Essentially.
Okay. And then eventually you want to go from the so-called TM to the R with that little
that's once I can get the trademark official. I mean, it's still been a whole process. There was an issue because there was a space between clothing and FTY. So I'm having to go through it all again. I might have to reapply for it. But yeah, I don't know. The trademark was more of a stepping stone for me. Like, if I apply for this, I've done something, I've spent some money, I'm in it, now where do I go? It was sort of just like a starting pad in a video game sort of thing for me to jump on. And then once I'm on that, it's like, okay, like,
you know what?
I have this now, where do I go?
Yeah, that's actually really funny that you say that. I only started this thing because I've had the idea since summer, the summer I was taking 14 credits and stuff. Okay. But I got the domain at the time.
That was last summer.
That was last summer, yeah. And I got a domain at the time. It was outsideofcollege.com.
Okay.
And because I was taking a digital marketing course, and the guy was explaining, "Hey, go ahead. It's like $80. Just do it, right?" But I think I only got official with all of this, and I decided, okay, I'm in. Once I spent some money, some like $300-400 to
on
get
the
this
equipment.
stuff on the equipment.
I was gonna say it was probably either applying for this stuff or actually getting this. Once you have it, it's like, okay, have to use it.
And it's the weirdest thing. Have you heard of sunk costs? Yeah. So essentially, for those who don't know, a sunk cost is some money or something that you've done already. For the sake of explaining it, pretend it's some money that you spent already that you're not getting back. There you go. You're not getting that money back, but you use that money as a justification for decisions. So let's say here, since I bought all this equipment for the podcast, that's a sunk cost. I'm not getting this money back.
Well, it's also an investment at the same time because the equipment, I mean, sunk costs are funny because to some degree they're always an investment.
Yes, because the future is uncertain.
Yeah, and people try and avoid sunk costs a lot, but sunk costs aren't a bad thing in my opinion. I mean, stickers, for example, I buy probably 500 stickers for around $300, and I don't make a cent off them. I put them on packages. I give them to people.
They're a nice treat, though. Not gonna lie. When you open the package and you see that,
it's nice to have a sticker. You know, it's like another little add-on item you didn't ask for, but you get anyways. And like, I could charge you $1 or $1.50 for them, but why not? It's just an added investment towards the brand image. So yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, I see that, and I agree with you.
it is a sunk cost though. Yeah, you're not getting money back for this stuff.
So yeah, the sunk cost is the money not getting back, but you're saying, oh, I already spent that money. Now I gotta go to this trip, even though I don't want to go to this trip just because I wasted the money. Anyway, my next question for you actually is, I think it's a lot more specific to your branding and the way you put your products out there.
Mm-hmm.
So correct me if I'm wrong. You create a design and you release this design, and you're probably just going to release that design once.
Yeah.
And then that's it. It's almost like you're collecting stuff. It's like
exactly. I mean, if I were to do a design again, if I were to remake a design, it will be different. It's going to be
a little different.
Yeah, nothing is ever going to be a re-released item, nothing restocked. Just because I have the creativity to come up with more. Mm-hmm. When the brand builds and the team builds, there's going to be more creatives on the team with more ideas. So ideas is never the issue for clothing brands. So I've always had strong opinions about restocks and companies redoing the same product over and over, just milking it for as much cash as they can get out of it. Because, I mean, there are certain products, you're wearing one of them, that got popular way after release. Like when I first put those out, that was the first item I put out. Not a ton of people wanted them. Not a ton of people thought they were cool. Mm-hmm. But then after a year, once I started putting out other stuff, they were like, whoa, that first graphic you did was actually pretty cool. So now people start buying it. But then once it's sold out, like now, nobody can get it. And then it just creates a fun dynamic with the brand. It creates more of a game of loyalty, of trying to get that next piece. And I mean, it's seen a lot of brands do that. That's nothing unique to my brand, but definitely an aspect I try and maintain, just no restocking.
Okay, so I have two questions for you. The first one is, I want you to explain the design on the back of this hoodie. Okay. And for the video, we're going to put the picture up.
Okay.
And second thing, I want you to kind of walk me through the process of getting a hoodie or a shirt, like designing it. From the moment you have the idea, and where you sit down in your room, in your house, somewhere to actually draw it and make the design.
Okay.
Printing it, getting the shirts, get all the stuff, to finally shipping to the consumer.
All right. So first thing, the hoodie. So that was based on the idea. It was really sort of the piece that pushed me into the whole brand's ideal and message, which I'm still refining every day. I mean, I didn't, like a lot of people sometimes plan their brands out 2 years, 3 years before starting. I was scared to do that because I didn't want to lose the motivation of doing it, because I wasn't actually doing it, but rather just planning all the time. So I just jumped in. So I'm still refining the brand's image and what we stand for and the message every day. But it still stems from the root, which is that the youth are essentially living in the shadow of older generations and being treated as such, being the youth that aren't typically capable of doing things, which is very true to a certain extent. A lot of kids don't have the knowledge, haven't been through certain experiences, but are prevented from going through those experiences and learning those things because they're youth. They're seen as juvenile. So on the back of that, I put the bouncy castle in the shadow of the real castle, because instead of the youth's castle being a smaller stone castle where they're treated equally, just younger, where they need to learn, they're treated as if they're not capable of learning yet, and you need to wait and learn before we treat you of being capable. So that was just sort of a big message I wanted to put out with that, but I wanted it to be in a friendly, youthful manner.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. Oh my gosh, I love
this. And
every
every piece we put out, even as simplistic as some of them may be, like this one is the Borders and Boundaries tee. Okay. So it's just an outline, but with the intent of drawing to an idea that there are boundaries and borders that the youth in middle school and high school can't get over until they get to college, until they go do this thing on their own, until yada, 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 because they don't have those resources provided in middle school and high school public education systems. It's just not there. So this one, as simple as it is too, also has meaning. But the design process is my favorite part of the brand, I guess, because I wouldn't say I'm naturally artistic.
You would say you're not?
No,
Okay.
definitely not. Nor would I say I'm artistically talented. I would say I'm creative. I would definitely say I'm creatively talented, and skillfully, but I don't think artistically my abilities are that great. So the design process is very slow for me, because I have to do multiple drafts. If I have an idea of a design, like last night I had an idea and I started on the first draft, I'm going to have to do like 8 of this one just because it requires more detail.
Okay. And this was last night?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't particularly have a lot of skill when it comes to art, and I am self-taught. So the things I do have to do over and over and over, or I have to seek out help from somebody who has a little bit more of an art background, or I use online things.
I was gonna say, have you ever seen any courses? Have
Mhm.
you watched videos on
Yeah.
design and stuff?
I haven't paid for a course,
Okay.
but I've watched a lot of video tutorials just on basic drawing things,
Kind of get the
sketches,
basic
and
idea.
yeah. So a lot of my pieces I'll either start on just Photoshop, or I'll start with a sketch.
Okay.
And either I build up off the sketch and then eventually scan it, put it on Photoshop, and then play with it,
Mhm.
or I just go straight with Photoshop from the start. But the design process, once I have the design, it's really about figuring out what piece I want to put it on, because like I said, I'm not at a cut and sew level yet. So I do work with vendors for printing, embroidery, D2G, sublimation,
DDG.
design a garment. So it's just ink printed onto the t-shirt.
Okay.
And then sublimation, heat pressing, just all the printing methods essentially. Just haven't gotten into a part where we can print fabrics and cut and sew yet.
Okay.
So it's about choosing the right garment, making sure that the material is nice, it's what I want, it's high quality, doesn't shrink. I really wanted to make sure that the quality of the streetwear is good, because people do care about the quality of their clothes. People
Yeah.
just don't want to pay a ridiculous price for it. And I think there can be a better line drawn between the two, where you're paying slightly more, but it's really good quality, built to last. And yeah, but the design process is fairly simplistic for me, I'd say. I really just make the designs, figure out what I want to put it on, and then work with my guy, Ronnie, over at Mint Prints. Shout out Mint Prints. I go work over with him, and we figure it out and get the pieces made.
So, okay, so you definitely don't create the shirts themselves.
Yeah.
How long did it take you, and where did you start looking for
Mm-hmm.
the company or the business or the people that make the shirts for you?
Okay, so that was an adventure, because a lot of people think when you start a brand that you find a manufacturer and they make it, but there's so many different types of manufacturers, printers, and vendors, because there's vendors who have licenses to import clothing from whatever brand, source it from whatever brand, and then print on it.
Okay.
There are brands that have licenses from certain brands that source their materials out of specific printing shops, and they can only print on those brands.
Okay.
And then there are manufacturers, full-scale manufacturers. They do cut and sew. They'll print on whatever. They make the garments out of the material in whatever country or local. They do it all. The big manufacturers are a different level. And that's where I went first, because I was like, oh, I want to make clothing. I'm going to go to a manufacturer. Their requirements are like 1,000 pieces, 1,500 pieces. There are some that can do it smaller scale, like 50 pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get to that small of a level,
The price
skyrockets with a
yeah.
cut and sew manufacturer, especially when you're trying to do all over prints and the ideas that I had. But I'm saving those for later on, because once I really have the money to put those out, they'll be real nice. But yeah, so I work with a vendor who does printing and can source from essentially anywhere. So yeah, they're not being made by us.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. On another topic, and I'm actually gonna make a pause here. If you have any questions along the way, you can let me know. We can come up here and ask. Okay. All right. So, in a past interview that you were in, you said, "I don't consider myself an entrepreneur."
No.
And I was watching that. I think we're gonna disagree on this one because of our definitions of entrepreneur.
Definitely.
But I'm definitely interested to see what's your thought process. Why do you not consider yourself an entrepreneur?
I mean, if we go by Webster's, if we go by the specific dictionary definition,
Okay.
then yes, I guess I essentially could be considered an entrepreneur because I'm somebody who started their own venture and is working off the fruits of their own labor, yada, yada, yada. However, it cannot sustain my life. I cannot pay my rent yet with my business. I cannot pay my groceries with my business yet. I mean, I do with little bits, but I can't run the business and pay all my bills and everything without having
Fully
another
on.
job right now. I need to have some sort of part-time or other full-time job. And I don't know, I've just always sort of held the idea close to me that until I can make money off of my own things 100% and not have to work for anybody, I'm not really an entrepreneur. I've started the entrepreneurial process. I'm involved in entrepreneurial activities.
Okay.
I am acting like an entrepreneur. I am making moves like an entrepreneur. But until I can fund my life,
Are you feeling like an entrepreneur?
a little bit more each day. I mean, with
Okay.
little things like this, like interviews and those aspects, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I did I did an article for a local magazine the other day. I'm gonna have an article featured in there, and I don't know. That was weird for me, like writing about something that's solely from me, about me, and
It's not like
but
giving a
it's not about
presentation.
me because it's about the brand, but that is me, and it was just so weird giving something truly from the heart like that. So I think just things like this definitely make me feel a little bit closer to that entrepreneur
Okay.
step. But like I said, until I can finance my life through solely my activities, I don't really consider myself one.
Got it. So you would call, on at least on a personal level, you would call an entrepreneur someone who can live off their entrepreneurial
Themselves,
activities.
yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. I'll see your point. And yeah, no, we don't disagree that much. I would actually say that I think an entrepreneur is someone who just decides to do something different, and he
Yeah.
actually goes through the process of, I have no clue what's gonna happen next. I'm gonna do it anyway, right? Either whether he's successful or not.
Somebody
whether
who
she's-
jumps off a cliff and figures out how to get down on the way.
Maybe not in that scenario. I don't think that one will be an entrepreneur. Please, entrepreneurs, do not do that. Disclaimer. Disclaimer.
Don't jump off cliffs.
We want you here. Please don't. Come join the interview. You can jump on this.
Metaphor use only.
Metaphor you. So.